Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay, so this is our first meeting of 2022, and I had written this title, Book Arts Guild 2022, and then I thought, well, I'm not actually talking about all of 2022, just the beginning of the year. So this is our annual business meeting, and then followed by our show and tell, which is very exciting, new thing for us. I just wanted to talk briefly about the UW Book Arts Guild itself. Started in 1979, so we are now 43 years strong, and has always had a very strong connection to the UW, for which we are very grateful, because they provide us, in the before times, a place to meet, a collection to borrow from and peruse, and a destination for the many artists that want to come in to, from out of town, and we can take advantage of that to have them come speak to us. So I'd just like to acknowledge and thank the UW for being as strong a supporter of the Book Arts Guild as they've been for the last 4 years. So jumping right into the annual report. So a little bit of review, year in review, 2021, we moved online. My feeling about that was but we did manage to hold 8 presentations with Sandra pulling the yeoman's duty there, but also presentations by Jim Koss, Tracy Timmons from a member, Tracy Timmons from Seattle Art Museum, Julie Chen from what's the name of that school? Mills College down in California, and Carrie, her book partner, and then Sarah Reese gave our end of year presentation on those Asian accordion books, which was absolutely fascinating. As I mentioned earlier, we are starting to make recordings available. And I put that in there to remind me to tell you that what I'm doing, because we talked about how to incorporate that onto our webpage, because that's kind of the only documentation that we have of book arts stuff. And what I'm trying to do is, so we have, I don't know if you've been to the website lately, but there's a thing that says events. And if you click on that, it comes up with the events, and I don't delete any of the old ones. And what I've done is I've gone back into those and updated them to add the YouTube link for the recording if one exists. So instead of it being an announcement of the presentation, it becomes a description of with a link to the YouTube. And so that if we have a YouTube that isn't for public view, it's only for the Book Arts Guild view, as one of our videos is, you can always find the link on the Book Arts Guild website, even if you can't find it in the YouTube. We have a YouTube page, home, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know the proper name for it. Anyway, so as I get those videos completed and stored or uploaded or whatever it is you do, that's where they'll be. We aren't going to have a separate listing for it, but they'll be associated with the actual event that they were. And this works right now because there's only like 4 videos. 10 years from now, when there's 100 videos, we might need to have some more organization, but hopefully 10 years from now, we won't be making videos. We'll be back in person. And the other thing that we spent a lot of time with, but not that you necessarily know about it, is working on improving our regional collaboration. There's been a lot of talk with the Northwest chapter of Guild of Bookworkers and the Puget Sound Book Arts people down in South Sound, and some of the Oregon organizations, just trying to figure out how we can collaborate, how we can support each other. We have our first collaborative event coming up in February, and we're hoping to do more of the same. The dream is that we can work together to bring people in from out of town and share costs, and so that person can go around and give multiple presentations or classes, and it just makes a benefit for everyone, since there's people spread all over Washington, and there's not really a good Western Washington, sorry, Eastern Washington people. There's not really a good central location. Looks like we'll still, anyway, point being, we want to work together with groups. For the report from the secretary, last year we had 244 members, which included 10 new ones. So always exciting to get new people to join. So far this year, we've already had 50 renewals, which is pretty exciting considering we're not even through January. So thank you to everyone that is renewed. It really gives us, not, I don't want to say hope. What's the word? It makes us feel like what we're doing is worthwhile if you're willing to renew and continue to be part of membership, like you want us to be here. Another big thing that we've been, another big step for us was getting the email communication updated a little bit. I don't know if you noticed that we went probably about halfway through the year, we converted over to MailChimp, which is an email communication distribution method. And that gives you the opportunity to unsubscribe or change your email address or just stay in touch with us a little more automatically. We still have to manually put you on that MailChimp list, so it takes a little while. If you're a brand new a brand new member and you're not in the list, might take a little bit to get you on the list, but we're entering the 21st century. And then, so Alma has been essential on that for figuring out how to do it. And then she is the one who's writing all those posts that you get. They're great. And then, oh, speaking of posts, we have also been trying really hard to keep the blog post or events posting up, and so that you have an idea of what we're doing immediately and then what's coming along soon. And Sarah has been very, very helpful in that. So I'll talk a little bit more about these people later on. On the Treasury side, Margaret has been working her butt off this year, our treasurer, continuing our long line of fiscal caretakers. She made us get a P.O. box. Can you believe we never had, after 43 years, we never had our own post office box, but we finally got one. Like I said, we're getting into the 21st century. She got us a debit card. It worked to get the PayPal thing, was all screwed up. She got that figured out. She gave me a summary of expenses. Annually, we spend about $500 on expenses. This is a COVID thing. When we have workshops, our expenses are a little higher because we pay for supplies for the teacher and stuff like that. But so in the last couple of years, been mailbox, licenses with the city, our website, Zoom, that sort of thing. And then last year we gave about $1,000 in honorariums to the artists that presented, and about $1,000 as a donation, as a thank you to the University of Washington's Book Arts Fund, just for their ongoing support of the organization. So memberships and donations, our income into 2021 was $844, which is a little low for us, but we told everybody not to pay for membership in 2021. We rolled that over from 2020 since we took a little break in 2020. So currently our bank balance is just over $18,000. It has been steadily declining because we haven't really had much income. But Margaret has been fantastic on making sure that we pay attention to where our money is and what we're doing with it, and also leading our discussions on what we're giving as honorariums and donations, making sure that we're staying current and being generous as we can without depleting the money that we have to support future activities. So that I alluded to the board for 2022. Here is everybody that is me, President, Kate, who you have talked to many times in the past, and Alma are splitting up the secretarial duties. You'll hear from one or the other on your membership. And if you have any questions, an email, one of them or me will answer your email. Margaret, our treasurer, Sarah, who if you saw the December presentation, she's been working on blogs all year and has agreed to join the board, which is great. So I can keep asking her to do things. And Sandra, who is the founding member of the Book Arts Guild, continuing on with us. Nan is also continuing on with us. And Kat is continuing on with us. And we have voted in, I don't know if he knows this, he might be finding out as I say this, that Will Davis, who was a past board member, has become our Kamala Harris. He is our vote tiebreaker. If the board ever has a tie, which we never do, we can call on him to weigh in and give us an additional perspective. So now here's the business part of the business meeting. I need, and this is going to be a little tricky, but I think we can do it. We need to get the membership's approval on the board. So if someone could raise their hand and nominate or let's see, motion for the board to be accepted, and somebody else second, and you can use your little reaction button on your screen or wave your hand.
I move we accept the board as presented.
Thank you. And do we have a second? I can't actually see very many people, so.
I second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You guys are awesome. So all in favor, you can, if you would like. Kat and I were looking at this. We think this will work. If you go to your reaction buttons, you can press a little yes or a no. And so Kat's going to take a quick count, and then apparently that never turns off. So if you don't want to be saying yes or no for the entire meeting, you got to go back and click it again. But leave it up for a few minutes. Kat's going to be counting while I keep talking. So thank you. Thank you for your faith in us. I hope that we have earned it, and we will keep trying to present programs that you're interested in. And on that note, here are some of our upcoming events. These both have hit the blog. I don't know if you've had a chance to see them. They have not gone out in an email yet, but Alma's working on it. I was asked her to hold until after we had this meeting. Saturday, this is a new day. We're going to have Ben Blount from Evanston, Illinois, speak about his art and activism. Very interesting guy. I went to a lecture of his and was like, oh, we got to get him in to speak to us. So because of the time difference, Thursday night just wasn't going to work. And I thought, well, this will be for people who can't come on Thursdays. They can come on Saturday. By coincidence, on Sunday is the first cooperative event with the wildlife. Wildlife is an exhibition that the Guild of Bookworkers is touring around the US. And one of their stops is at the Collins Library at Puget Sound University down in Tacoma. And so we are co-sponsoring this panel. They're going to have a panel discussion with some of the artists. They're trying to get there are some local artists that are in the show as well as national artists. It's a national organization. So anyway, they were going to have an in-person panel, but thanks to our friend Omicron, they have decided to put this online. So that one is going to be on Sunday the 20th. There's a registration link in our blog, just the same as all of them. And you'll get the Zoom link later closer to that. Those are the two things that are set. Now comes the wishy-wishy stuff. At UW right now, if you could get on campus, which I'm not sure you can, or maybe if you're by yourself, you can, in the UW, the special collections, what do you call that? The part outside the door, lobby there, and also around the corner where they have those display cases. There is an exhibit of the broadsides by Jessica Spring there on the left and Chandler O'Leary on the right. Their Dead Feminist series, a fascinating series, very historical. They produce a letterpress printed broadside periodically to honor a feminist and her actions and they're up to about 24 of them, I would say. And so unfortunately, this exhibit was planned a long time ago, way before COVID, and hardly anybody's been able to see it. And Sandra is trying really hard to try and find a way that we can have an exhibit somehow, either have people in small groups or do something online, some way to recognize this great body of work that they have put together while that exhibit is up. So that's why I say it's a hoped for event. We haven't figured out exactly how to do that. I know she can start teaching now, so we're trying to make this a teaching event. So after that, in April, we're going to have an online presentation by Lisa Tsang, who is going to talk about the calligraphy side of book arts. And that has not yet been scheduled, but she has agreed to it. So in my book, that means it's on schedule. Also in April, just some other events that I know are going on. The Newport Paper Book Festival down in Newport, Oregon is going to attempt to do an in-person event. And there are some Book Arts Guild members who are teaching at that. You can find out, that's all, the registration happens on that in the next few days. Later on, Letters of Joy, the Write On Calligraphers people from Bellevue and, well, they're all from all over Washington, but they are a calligraphy group, and every year they have put on a book and calligraphy conference called Letters of Joy. Last year was online, and they just told me today that they are going to do another one online this year too. They have a speaker one night, a guest featured speaker, and then classes or a class the next day. So that will be hitting their website soon, just so you know there's things coming. There's another April event I'm going to ask Catherine to talk about, but at the same time, she talks about her June event. Then later on, which is now, later on in June and August, after the wildlife exhibit comes down at Collins Library, the Puget Sound Book Arts member exhibit is going to go up for 2 months. That'll be an in-person thing, and focus on book arts down in,
Forest Grove.
thank you, Hillsboro, Oregon.
Westboro.
Or Forest Grove, sorry, right.
Yeah.
Forest Grove, Oregon will be happening in person, and lots of planning going on that, and several Book Arts Guild teachers are teaching at that, members are teaching at that as well. I felt like I could mention it happening. And then I just found out like 10 minutes ago, so Catherine's going to talk about it without a presentation in front of her, about the event coming up at the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art. So hit it, Catherine.
Great, thank you. So every 3 years, the museum is putting on a very large scale artist book show. And the next one will open the first weekend of March, March 3rd. The show is called Boundless. And opening weekend, we think that so inside Boundless is an exhibition that's been curated by Tia Blassingame and Ellen Sheffield. And they'll be doing a virtual presentation opening weekend of the show. I believe Cynthia and I will be doing a virtual presentation the opening weekend of the show in March 3rd, 4th, 5th, which was when we would also normally have dog ear, but because of COVID, dog ear is being delayed into June. So the first weekend of June will be dog ear. And but first in April, we're going to have an artist book panel on environmental artist books. We're going to have Lucia Harrison facilitate this panel, moderate this panel with Beverly Natus and Suze Wolf and Shuju Wang. And then in June, we're going to have another panel that's going to be activist printmakers, Ben Blunt, Caden Henningsen, and Kitty Koppelman, who's from Olympia, who you may or may not know. And also that weekend, we're bringing Robin Holder, who's been making artist books for like 40 years or something. We believe we're bringing Mark Dimunation back for the closing Sunday. This is a little out of order. We're bringing Kitty Marriott to come and talk about her book, Prose du Trans-Siberian, which will be in the show. The show is called Boundless, by the way, Boundless. And I believe Kitty's gonna do a demo kind of workshop-y drop-in thing. Pip, Jenny Wilkson is bringing Pip back for creating your own broadside printing kind of thing. And at the museum, it'll be inside or outside. And then, we have something else happening that weekend. I mentioned Mark Dimunation, Robin Holder, Kitty Marriott, the panel with our artist activists, I believe, is going to be virtual. And we're trying to do the other events live. The environmental panel in April, we're bringing them to the auditorium. We're hoping we can have a limited audience in the auditorium, but we're also going to stream it. So some of these things will be available in different ways. I think that's everything, but we'll have a website up soon, and I'll also send a schedule to the Book Arts Guild. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Catherine. So if you didn't go to the first Dog Year Festival, which was 3 years ago at the museum, was really fun. we had a table there. The Book Arts Guild had a table, but there were lots of artists, and it was lots of people who were either there promoting book arts or there for the upstairs presentation, and the whole gallery is turned over to book arts. It's really fun. As a book arts lover, it's just all in one place, all book arts, and it's very, very fun. So I was very excited to hear about it, and they have just set the dates in for
Yes.
opening in March and April, and then the big festival in June.
Yeah,
So-
and the show, can I just add, the show will
Yeah.
come down June 22nd. So if you want to see the show, you'll have from March 3rd to June 22nd. But we put Boundless at the beginning of June, just in case it drops off the radar and then people are like, oh, I have to get there and see the show. You'll still have
Yeah,
it.
yeah, good. Great. So, and when we hear more about that, we'll get that information onto the BAG website with a link to
Thank you.
the museum website.
Thank
So
you.
with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kat, who is going to, so for the show and tell, as a reminder, we asked people to send in some videos, and we got several that we're very excited about. And what we're going to do is play each video and then stop. And if you have questions, you'll be able to ask them of the artist at that time. And I believe they're all on. I didn't actually confirm. I confirmed with everybody it was okay if I ask questions, but I haven't actually checked that they're connected. So, so artists, be prepared to answer questions after your video plays. And while you're watching the video, write your questions down and then ask them afterwards, because you will have we'll just spend a few minutes on that, just in case there's something burning that you need to know. So I'm going to stop sharing my movie screen, and I think Kat can start sharing the first video.
Can you see it still?
We can see it.
Amazing.
The birds are still amazed by this time on the planet. And I am so glad that you are here. So let's love and not delay. Let's watch creation recreate. Jan.
That was quick. So that was Jan Chubb's book, and I know a little bit about that book, but I'm going to ask the first question because I want to know where that mailbox came from. Jan, please tell us. I think I need to stop my spotlight. Please tell us where that mailbox came from.
My hands. It's an artist book. It's made out of binder board and book cloth and all the usual stuff you use in artist books. And the postcards are part of a collaborative project where artists from across the country sent postcards to each other. And each of us was in a group of 16. So we got 16 cards at the end of the mailing process, and we took those cards and we were supposed to make them into books. And the mailbox was my book.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that was amazing. So, and did you measure an actual mailbox to get those proportions so
Yeah.
fabulous?
It's not exactly right. And I photographed, of course, all of the post office insignia and
That's
pasted them
amazing.
on
I'm
the book.
amazed that it works too. You can open the hatch and then retrieve the cards. That's really, so now where does this book reside?
Under the table in my living room.
That's the problem with those big sculptural books is,
Yeah.
where should I put this?
Well, this one is made to, it's modular, so I can
Oh,
put it in a
good.
smaller area.
All right. Anybody else have questions for Jan on that amazing? I'll ask one more question. So how long do you think it took you to make that mailbox?
Probably, I don't know if I condensed all the time, probably about a week.
But you
it's
worked on
spread
it
out.
for
It was
months?
spread out. Well, you know, it was a project that happened this summer, so.
Okay, now I'll let anybody else have a question for Jan on that book? Oh, Bisou says that she loves it because of she used to be a mail carrier. That's awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I hope that you will be able to bring that to our next in-person event, whatever our next in-person event is, because I would really love to see that in person, as I say about every artist book that I see. So, okay, let's go to our next one.
Hello, my name is Tess, and I would like to show you a process I've been working on for the last year and a half that combines letterpress printed decorative materials with hand-drawn pen illustrations, like this one. So in this one, all of the color elements are printed from handset type, from lead border material, from a wood-mounted rose illustration. All of that printed in the CNP press through a mylar frisket cut in the irregular shape of this suit jacket.
Oh.
So I set up all those forms in type for each color, and then I print them onto a blank sheet through this cut frisket in that shape. And then once I printed all the colors, I then put the line art of the black pen illustration on top in the end. So I've been working on this for a while. I started with much more basic shapes. I started with this little topiary shape, which was just like, again, a complete rectangle of decorative material, and then a mylar frisket cut out with this little basic geometry of a topiary bush. And from there, I have been working on refining both the masking system and the registration system so that I can use more complicated patterns and do multicolor passes. This was a commission of somebody for their partner. They wanted the full like blanket burrito printed in a little 2-color pattern. So that one was 2 colors there. I've gotten into trying to figure out how to make masks register to each other. So this one is 2 separate masks. So there's one mask for the suit part, for the jacket part of the suit, and then there's another mask for the pants part, because I wanted to be able to print the pattern at 2 different angles to distinguish the parts from each other, but also get tight enough registration for that fine line quality right in there. So I'm still working on, making the registration as tight as possible so I can keep the delicate line quality that I want. But so far, I'm learning a lot. Yeah. Okay, how do you end that?
Well, that was amazing, Tess. Thank you. And so I especially like the ending because that's how I always feel like, how do I end this? So I have a question about, so you said you frisketed it, and so that was all handset type?
Yeah.
And you use the frisket because the type isn't round, and so the frisket kept the square type from printing beyond your edges?
Yeah,
That-
yeah, set. It depends. Like I've had to go through a couple Sometimes I only have like barely enough type to cover the space. So I do have to like plan to kind of just barely overflow all of the edges of the irregular shape. So sometimes I don't get to cover like a very regular rectangle either, but I do have to like overflow the edges. And like I try to plan the patterns so that they clip off of the illustration places in like, because it has to still look like a 3D shape mostly. So you have to make sure that like the pattern isn't like missing information, leaving like negative area in a like at an important like elbow or something like that. So you have to like plan the pattern to like clip off the edge of the fabric in a lot of places where it like explains the shape of it, I guess that's what I'm saying.
Wow. And how do you plan that?
So the part that I didn't really have time to get into is like how registration kind of works, which involves basically pinning down the entire line art and composition of the piece in a digital sketch first, and then printing digital sketches of the composition with crop marks and stuff so that I have digitally printed mock-ups to establish position from, and then print blank sheets after I found position on those digital mock-ups. And then the digital mock-up is what goes on the light table to redo the line art on top at the end.
So I'm just going to say this, even though I am totally a handset person, couldn't you have done all this shaping digitally with a photopolymer plate?
Yes. Yes, is the short answer to that. Yeah, I mean, like I started doing these in the first place from like digital sketches where I was designing just like patterns. Like I do digital drawing on the side also. So like that's where I started doing it. Couldn't really explain my obsession with doing it this way also, which is more time consuming. I'm still working on that. I'm still working on justifying myself.
But the textures are unique.
Okay, the textures are good.
They're
Okay, yeah. I mean, sometimes
absolutely
it's right. I mean, sometimes I could also make an excuse about like why the type itself is like.
Oh, it's a fantastic technique. I'm really impressed.
But no, I don't have a great explanation for why I'm spending my life hours this way.
It delights me
Sure.
so much.
Sure.
Well, I think you could make that same question about books. I mean, how many of you, I'll just put this out to the group and you don't have to answer, but haven't you been said, well, books, but you can read them online. Why would you make a book? So, I mean, you can ask, why do any of us spend our life hours that way? Because it seems like the right thing to do. It feels right. So fascinating, beautiful, beautiful illustrations. Really, really cool. I love the color combinations. So any questions from anybody? There was a bunch of gushing in the chat while your video was playing. So I encourage you to spend some time with that afterwards because it was really, really fantastic. Thank you so much for doing a video of it too and sharing with those of us who haven't joined the Instagram world that didn't know you were doing this. So thank you. I really enjoyed it. All right, let's move on to number 3.
I'm Suze Wolf, and I have been making a series of artist books about the impact of bark beetles on forests. A lifelong outdoor person, my artwork is primarily about nature. In my own Pacific Northwest, I've been watching glaciers shrink and burned over forest increase. So I've been making artwork to express my anxiety about the climate change I see in my favorite places. All over the West, I've seen wood and bark that looks scribbled on. The doodling is the channels that beetle larvae chew, called larval mines or galleries. They interrupt the flow of nutrients up and down the tree. This book is about the mutually beneficial relationship between some bark beetles and the fungi they transport as they fly from tree to tree. The fungi's microfilaments burrow into the wood searching for nutrients. They transfer phosphorus and nitrogen back outward toward the surface of the tree. Without them, mountain pine and fine fir engraver beetle larvae could not digest the wood. The mountain pine beetle fungi leave a bluish stain in the wood, the fir engraver fungi a gray stain. I learned about this adaptive strategy from studies by Dr. Diana Six of the University of Montana. Obligate Mutualism is a unique artist book. It's made from a split branch as the spine. It's probably from a fir tree. It has beetle galleries chewed into it. The covers are wood sandwiches of laser-cut wood glued to panels. The pages are iron oxide dyed wool felt with embroidery floss stitching and waxed linen thread for the bindings. I used industrial felt as end papers glued over the binding threads. I drilled holes through the split branch for the binding threads and knotted them on either side of the spine for stability. The covers show the patterns of two bark beetle species, mountain pine beetle on the front and fir engraver on the back. This video shows me starting some of the embroidery on Obligate Mutualism. The book is called that because the beetles and the fungi both depend on each other. This book was inspired by the observation that both bark beetles and humans like to make their homes from the wood of trees, so we are competing for the same resource. I made Resource Competition as a unique artist book. It's made from a split branch as the front or top cover. It's probably from a fir tree. It has bark beetle galleries chewed into it. The back or bottom cover is a piece of dimensional lumber with so-called blue stain and holes from other beetle species. I interpolated the shape of the branch in software to the dimensional lumber at the back, and then had thin plywood pages laser cut. I also interpolated the image of the beetle galleries on the branch to the image of the board to suggest the competition between humans and beetles for trees. Sometimes the humans are ahead, sometimes the beetles. This animation shows the image of the branch's beetle galleries morphing into the image of the dimensional lumber and back again.
That was amazing. I love the end of the video where you're going off with all the wood over your shoulder, and I just imagine you running into someone and they go, "What are you doing?" And, "Oh, I'm collecting parts for a book." They're like, "Those are logs." Like, well, that's a book for me. I'm curious. I always thought bark beetles were an invasive pest, but it sounds like they're an important part of the fir ecosystem.
Well, let's see. There's a long answer and kind of a short answer. The shortest answer is that there are of like 6,000 species. There are 10 that have evolved to attack live trees. So those are the
pest ones, if you will, although they're just doing what they do normally. The fact that our winters are not as cold means their populations explode. And because the trees are already stressed from drought and heat, they're more likely to be vulnerable to them. So most beetles are, as one of my favorite collaborators says, just janitors. They're decomposers. It's only those 10 species that attack live trees that are a visible problem. And they're a problem because we made the earth warmer.
And they're a problem because we want the wood, right? If that one where you said it's we're both after the same resource, and if we didn't really care, well, we would have just eliminated trees a long time ago.
Well, of course, yeah, there are a lot of other value besides lumber to forests.
Absolutely,
You
absolutely.
know, the lungs of the world, for example.
and the water pickup too, all the runoff problems that you have with even just small reduction in forest cover. I read about that.
The other challenge with the beetles is they are creating huge swaths of dead trees, and it's a huge fire hazard. And that's one of the reasons we have so many fires in Eastern Washington now.
Actually, it's counterintuitive. I thought that too, and that was how I got interested in them. But it's highly variable. There are actually cases of large extensive beetle kill in Colorado acting as a fire break, because a live tree has all those resins and flammable chemicals in it, and will actually burn faster and hotter than a dead tree. So it's very counterintuitive. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, any wood will burn.
Now, your first book with the felt pages, was there text in there, or was that just the representative of the industrial felt?
The embroidery represents the hyphae, the filaments of the fungi that travel with the beetles burrowing into the wood. So
wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that looks like a book that really begs to be touched. Oh, Jan has a question.
Suze, do you ever worry that maybe some of the beetles are still in your books?
I soak, where I'm using natural materials, I soak them in pretty toxic wood hardener. I heard a horror story from a museum about an artist who had brought in a bunch of wood and things started crawling out of it. So I've been very conscientious about making sure that anything in there is quite dead.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, the little known facet of book building involves pesticides.
Right. Wood hardener is.
Oh, so wood preservative.
Wood preservative.
Okay.
And I should say it's been those were they're in the Science Stories exhibit that was at UPS and will be traveling around the state. I just finished volumes 37 and 38. So it's been kind of an obsession for 7 years now. And it's been a great exploration of not only the science and everything that I've learned from scientists, but form and materials as well. I get myself into something I don't know how to do every time I start one.
Yeah, because they're all so different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those two that you showed couldn't be more, other than they both are based on wood. One with the felt interior and the other one with the interpolated changes in the pages. I mean, completely different approaches that you had to take and methods that you had to utilize. And so you said 36 different books? 38?
38 now.
That's amazing. In 6 years, because that means that you're doing over 6, I can do the math, over 6 a year, which I find also quite amazing considering my output speed. So
it's kind of obsessive.
I think it's a good obsession. I think we might have to tap you in for later in the year to just spend a whole hour talking about your books, because I think I'd like to see a broader, or else when we can actually see them in person. Again, back to there's something I'd really like to touch and see up close. Okay, so you guys, just let you know, you're all now on my list of when we're back in person, you're coming in and bringing your stuff so that I can see it up close.
Sounds
I need
good.
to
Thanks.
smell that letterpress ink. So
Elaine, can I make a short announcement?
please,
The Science Stories show, if you didn't get a chance to see it in the Collins, it's coming up to the Port Angeles Fine Arts Center in March.
oh, great. That's very exciting. I did not know that, Jen. Thank you. If you send me, well, once you have a link for it on your, on the Art Center's website, send it to me and we'll put it on the Book Arts Guild page too, because
Will do.
I know I'll be going since that's just an hour away from me. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. All right. Next up, I know we have a couple more.
Hello, Lori Kathleen Clark here. Welcome to my studio, where I'd like to share a couple little book adventures. I'm a newbie book artist, mostly just a nature sketchbook artist, and I teach nature sketchbook classes. This summer, when I was working with the theme of birds and feathers and nests, I decided to finally break open an accordion sketchbook that I had acquired at Dan Smith's last year, and used it for a way to document some birds that had built a nest and then laid eggs, and the eggs opened, and I got to experience the whole thing very close up. So I took photographs and then created this little book, The Nescapades, Robins in the Hood, and each date I just used a little rubber stamp to date, and then drew, painted, and sketched in on each fold the different stages of development. And while it's not yet completed, the entire book will continue on the other side with them all the way up to when they fledged. So I thought I would share this with you. Again, as a newbie artist, book artist, I've not done things in books prior to this, so this is my first adventure. But I thought I would share this. And then I have a second one that I did. Similarly, the theme was about birds and nests and feathers. And I remembered as a child having a book where you needed to match pages up. They're separated, and then you would match them up by flipping them. And so I created this book where you have to find the bird, feather, and nest that go together. So for instance, here's the stellar jay. And so then you have to go through and find that stellar jay's eggs. And then on the back of it, it'll tell you about the stellar jay. Or for another one, let's talk about the flicker. So where are the flicker's eggs? You have to match the flicker up with the eggs and the feathers. And then on the backs of that, you find out about them. And so on. So there's the dark-eyed junco, and you have to figure out where the eggs and for that bird are. It took a lot of thinking to work this out, and it almost broke my brain, but I got it, I think. Again, I don't know what I'm doing as far as building a book, so my way of holding the pages together probably leaves a lot to be desired, but I thought I would share my little attempt at creating a fun way to teach children, or even my own self, how to match the bird and the feather and the nest and the egg up.
Hello.
I think we know who's next, but so I want to go back to Lori's books. Lori, I don't know you, but I'm so glad that you submit. I'm not even sure if Lori's on. Oh, there she is.
I am.
So glad you submitted because your watercolors are so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
The colors and the precision. Are you a botanical illustrator?
I teach nature sketchbooking, and so I do a lot of birds and animals mostly, but also plants. Yeah.
Gorgeous, just
Thank
gorgeous.
you.
I
Thank
love
you.
that name of the Nescapades. I had in 2020, I had barn swallows build a nest, which I thought would be so fun and cute, but they were under my patio cover on my deck, and while they were fun and cute as eggs, they were really messy once they grew up.
Oh.
But it was so I would sneak up there. I mean, much like you must have done, and kind of hold the camera over, try, I'd wait till the mother was gone and hold the camera over to try and take a photo. But it's very fun to watch a nest progress. Although, as I said, very messy. I hope your robins were in a place that weren't so messy.
Yeah.
So now, how long have you been working on that? I mean, like, when were your robins hatched?
So that was early June, and I taught the class about 2 weeks later. So I had to work really quickly. So I think I put about 2 weeks into it, and these things just sort of just develop. I get these crazy ideas, and then I have to figure out how the heck I'm going to do it with little book knowledge. So it was fun.
Lovely, lovely. And then I know there is a name for those matching books, but I don't know what they are. What a great idea to match. And so are the pictures mixed up, or if you like turn two at a time, would the birds always match?
They're totally mixed up. You
Oh
have
my
to match. Yeah.
gosh. No wonder your brain broke.
I know. It was not a job for a dyslexic person.
So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
an exquisite corpse you're thinking of.
Oh, okay. Even when it's just the matching flaps?
Yeah, well, it's matching flaps. It's the same thing, except it only has the 2 levels instead of many levels or 3 levels or whatever. But I would say it was an exquisite corpse type of book.
I wished I did know what the name of those are. I keep trying to come up with the name and I can't think of it either. So
We need to invent one that's not so dead body oriented.
right.
I think that anybody interested in birds would just love that one with the matching the eggs and feathers, because so often you're out and you find a feather and you go, unless it's blue, I
Right.
wonder who this belongs to. Or if you see eggs, every once in a while you find eggs. And so that's beautiful book. Really, really
Thank you.
beautiful. I
Thank
hope
you
you
very
make
much.
more like that, because your
Thank you.
painting is really gorgeous. And thank you again for submitting a video, because I thank you for being brave enough to do that and
was-
sharing your sketches with us. I really
Thank
like
you.
it. It's always nice to meet a new artist.
And can I put in I think it's great that even though she didn't make the books and she took things that existed, she's gotten into it. And it's a good way to get into doing books, do an existing and maybe, illustrate as she did, or do collage, and then, you just keep going from there. I think it's great.
It's a slippery slope, I'll tell you. Ask me why I have a basement full of letterpress equipment. All right. I think Catherine's video is next.
Can you hear me?
We can now hear you, Catherine.
Okay, I'm so sorry. My internet's cutting out, and so far it hasn't interfered with the videos, but I think it just might have interfered with my queue. So I will start it now. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
My name is Catherine Ellis Michaels, and this is the story of my artist book, Becoming. It began at the Bloedel Reserve in May of 2020 during a creative residency. I spent 3 weeks printing from wood rounds that had been sanded, planed, and torched. These prep pieces of wood and a can of ink were my tools to print on paper and fabric, creating scenes and characters. I started to see myself in this character on the right, and I started going on many adventures. In many ways, this book is the story of my residency. One particular piece of Madrona looked very much to me like a cow, and at some point it sprouted wings in the shape of leaves. This was also me on 250 acres by myself for hours and hours every day, roaming the trails of Bloedel with just the plants and the animals, all of us responding to and talking to each other. Each print or page in the book began as a print from a piece of wood with embellishments of linoleum prints, applique, and embroidery. Using wood slabs as well as wood rounds really helped the scenes come to life. If I was going to finish this book in time for my show at the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art, I needed to figure out which prints I would use and in what order I was going to place them. At my residency, I had experimented with wood rounds on blue paper, and this inspired the fabric that I printed to cover the back side of the scroll and to frame each of the prints. I hand sewed the entire front of the scroll because I'm useless on a sewing machine. To sew the back onto the book, I enlisted the help of my sister Neelam, who's an expert seamstress. This is the print you see when the scroll is all rolled up on the front. Becoming was created organically, without research, without a narrative before I began, without any pre-planning. It was made from playing, something I rarely make time to do in the studio. It was such a gift. You can see it in person at the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art until February 20th. Becoming was such a pleasure to make, and I appreciate the chance to share it with you.
I like that. Yeah, Candace just said made from playing. Yeah, that was a beautiful comment about that. So I was confused about, is the cover, Catherine, is that fabric, or you showed us blue paper that was printed with rounds and then you did the same thing on blue fabric that you
Right.
printed with rounds?
Yes, the whole piece is made with fabric, but I've done lots on paper as well. And so, practicing on paper and then practicing on fabric and getting ideas from both and going whatever direction seemed to be next.
And so what do you like to print on better, fabric or paper?
I like the fabric better. The paper, the printing works best on the highest quality paper, Japanese paper. And so for me to play, I needed to use cheap materials. And I've learned from that that's one of the things that keeps me from playing is just the expensive, nice paper. And but these were sheets that I got at Goodwill, and I dyed them during my residency in a pot on the stove, and they were just a couple dollars each. So it just gave me the freedom to play and make mistakes and try lots of overlays and colors and combinations. And there's a lot that just look horrible, but I just kept going and going.
How many prints do you think you made you selected about 7 or 10 of them total for the finished book?
Yeah, I think there's 7 maybe in that finished book. There's another book in the show that has maybe 8. And then I still have lots of prints I want to use and for another piece or 2. But I keep making them, the prints. And some look like prints to me, and some are just playing around. So I have lots of stuff that's just playing around that doesn't really look like a print to me. And then some of them just work out really well.
And what kind of ink did you use? Did you
I'm
use
using
fabric
my-
ink or just regular letterpress ink?
I'm using my oil-based letterpress ink. And then if you want to do this at home, the finer the weave of the fabric is going to give you a better print, and nice thin Japanese paper works. But we used a lot of different kinds of paper, and I think you just have to practice and apply, learn a little technique as you practice. I didn't have a lot of patience for that part. The fabric was just pretty immediate.
Who needs to practice? And what were you printing on? Did you take a little proof press with you or a tabletop or?
Oh no, I'm inking it, the wood with a brayer, and I'm flopping the fabric or the paper over it, and I'm rubbing it with the back of my hand.
Oh, old school.
Yeah, and if I used a wooden spoon or something like that, they'd look more like Suze's bark beetle books. They'd have this like meandering, line from the spoon. So I just used my hands, got some splinters occasionally, but it was actually pretty good.
Did you bring all the wood home, all the inky wood?
I did.
I thought you
Yeah.
might.
Yeah, we had some giant rounds from Bloedel that I used that were prepared for stools for a tea ceremony. And then I was there during the time of the tea ceremony, and I said, hey, what's going to happen with these? And they're like, oh, we'll probably just burn them or compost them or something. And I said, well, can I did a workshop. So people at Bloedel, or not a workshop, but just like a walkthrough where everyone could take a print from the wood. So because they didn't care about the rounds, I was able to set that up and have people come through Bloedel and make prints from those giant rounds of wood. And then I got to bring them home. But
Nice.
Most of those in the book are really tiny, they're just a couple inches, except for the slabs. Most of the rounds are pretty small, but on the blue background fabric, I did use some of the bigger rounds.
And were those pieces all cut when you got them, or did you pick some pieces and have them cut so that you could print with them?
Well, my husband Bill actually cut them all and planed them and sanded them and burned a lot of them. I got to my residency without thinking I was going to do the wood rounds. I was going to do some other things, but as soon as I got there, I wanted to do the wood round printing. So he just prepped them and drove them all up to me. And then he just keeps finding pieces of wood and saying, hey, let's try this one, and cuts them and preps them.
Oh, so you're kind of like Suze walking through the wood of, no, this is a part from my book.
Exactly. Yeah. So every time, we use firewood in our wood stove. And so whenever a tree comes down or something happens, or we find something on the beach, we're just looking at it for its print potential now. Yeah.
I love that. Just everything is printable. The telephone, the other book, my foot.
That's right. Bring your foot over and we'll try it.
All right. Any questions from anybody else? Okay, well, I think that do take a trek. So it's still on display. Your book is still on display at BIMA through mid-February, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, February 23rd, actually. Yeah.
All right, well, the museum is an easy walk from the ferry terminal. So if you have a way to get to the downtown ferry terminal, you can walk aboard the Bainbridge Ferry, and it's very easy to get to the museum. And the museum is free. It's a wonderful museum. So if you have any inclination, it's a great day trip from Seattle. I highly recommend it.
And I want to add that you do have to show your vaccination card. So don't leave it at home or take a photo and bring it on your phone. And there's not a lot of people in the museum, so you don't have to worry about crowds. There's so few people in the museum every day.
That sounds awesome. Thank you. All right, I think we have one last video. So Kat can hit, oh, there she goes.
Oh yeah, Lisa Tsang.
Hi everyone, this is Lisa Tsang, and I just wanted to show you some of my books in a box. These projects came about just because at the end of 2021 there was a huge snowstorm, and we got stuck in the house, and so I took a look at all the different boxes that I had collected over the years thrift shopping, and decided to make books that would fit inside of them. So here is one that had a Celtic design, and somebody had given me some birch bark, and so I stamped on images of the alphabet in this Art Nouveau style and put that in the box. Here's one that was wood turned, And inside I made a little fabric fortune cookie. And it says, "A flower blossoms for its own joy, Frida Kahlo." And I'm always struggling to find ways of displaying my artist trading cards. This was a box of chocolates from Trader Joe's, and I've put in about 100 of these artist trading cards that I've done with 3 other artists. They're called jam cards. So that's what's in this box. I have this one, and inside is a paste paper book, and if you unwrap it, it has some calligraphy that I had written in it. So it'll take a little while to unwrap because it's quite... Oh, sorry, this one is blank. This one doesn't have the calligraphy. And I have a matchbox that are full of my inchies. Inchies are 1-by-1 pieces of art that I used to trade with various friends. And then I had some circles. So these ones has circle books. And this was another lens box, and I put in calligraphy practice pages. That's here. Cut into a circle, and then I have a whole series of boxes that are Altoid tins. And inside they contain various treasures. So this gives you an idea of all the different boxes. Here's one spool. Ones like this, in a hexagonal box. Looks like I broke the video feed. I think maybe because it exceeded the 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah, right. We cut you off.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Did it crap out? I'm so sorry.
No, it paused, but now it's going.
Okay,
But there's
cool.
no sound, but it's okay.
The sound is gone, but that's okay.
Wait, is it still moving?
Yeah.
Oh, but I paused it. Uh-oh. I'm so sorry that my internet isn't cooperating right now. That's so annoying. Okay, let me see.
So I guess I'm over my 4 minutes. So thanks, everybody. That just gives you an idea of the collection. Thanks, everybody. That just gives...
What a great little collection, Lisa. I love it. So how many do you think you ended up with?
To do. Oh gosh, I didn't even count them. I just kept making.
Lisa,
And
Lisa,
for bookies, we're supposed to exchange. So I would love to exchange some of these books with anybody who wants to do an exchange.
Lisa,
Yes?
do you ever sleep?
I require very little sleep.
I know you that's only a small section of your books in boxes, because you sent me different pictures for the newsletter.
Right. Yeah.
I really liked the fortune cookie one. I
Oh,
like
yes.
the looking at the shape of that box, because you had that little box in your hand, and I thought, what would you put in a box of that shape? And then you opened it up, and it was just the perfect thing to be in that little intricate vase-shaped box. Was that little perfect pink satin fortune cookie. The other one I really liked was your samples, the string of from your sample pages.
Oh, yes. My
That was
pages.
really cool. That was really, really, I mean, it had all that different action and color and interest, and each one was just like a little gem in itself. So that
It's
was
fun. Those are really fun.
And what an
figured-
inspiration to use up all your little boxes. I have a little collection of boxes, and there it sits, a little box. Like, this seems like it should be so useful.
Well, it's neat when you give it to somebody, the surprise of opening the box, and sometimes you don't know what's in there. You get a fortune cookie. And they're not always in a box, because I made things like this, which is a turned, and it has like quotations on fabric in here, in this little turned champagne goblet.
How did you print on the ribbon?
You just letter with a fabric marker.
Oh, so you hand wrote that whole long
Hand
strip.
lettered. Mhm.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course
So
you
I
did.
figured out what I want to teach you all in April. And I'm glad that, it's been delayed, because the library asked me to teach fantasy, well, I call it fantasy scripts, for teens, a teen program. But as I was developing this class, I thought I should teach this to adults. And so I've worked out handouts for 3 scripts right now: Wakandan, Eorzean, and the Dwarven runes from Tolkien. So this is one page that I've done in this book I didn't make is from Figments. So I want to be able to teach you guys how to write like this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interactive presentation.
All my presentations, I like to teach something.
Those
So
are very
maybe you guys
cool.
let
Well,
me
the
know.
a little sneak preview of April.
Yeah, you guys let me know if there's a script that you want to learn, and then I'll see, because I've been looking at Pinterest, and I'm finding all kinds of things like Vulcan and Klingon. It's kind of interesting. The script from Star Wars. There's actually something called Huttese that is from Jabba the Hutt. But I went down this rabbit hole of different.
That sounds like a serious rabbit hole.
Yes, there's Ewokese, but that is only it's only verbal. They don't have a written language.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I think that does it for our videos. And I'm just so impressed with everybody. Thank you so much again to all the artists who submitted videos. And I hope that is stimulating the rest of you to also produce a video, because those were just great. And I think we're going to have to do this again, because I really, really enjoyed seeing what you're all working on. And now that we can't get together and bring something in your coat pocket like, oh, look what I did, which we tried to do in the past. So thank you again for participating, and thank you for coming to our meeting. We've taken care of our business for the year, and it's just fun and games from now on, right? Yeah, just keep thinking that. So we will be back on Saturday. You can find Alma will send out an announcement for the 2 upcoming Saturday events, and it'll be the same thing. Register through Eventbrite. Hopefully I will get the right night this time. I don't know how many of you noticed I scheduled this for yesterday, but fortunately we could still hold it tonight when everybody was planning to be here. We will meet again for some more artists in February. Unless anybody else has anything else, I think we'll wrap it up. Okay, well, thank you all. I guess I should end the video.